habits.
Brunches. That word, brunches. I think that was all I used to hear about when I first moved to Dubai 15 years ago. People go, do you want to come to a brunch? And I think I can safely say I've probably been to about 4 or 5 in 15 years. And the main reason is because I can't eat that much food and I can't even drink that much. So it was also a place where I used to see at the end of the brunch a lot of people intoxicated. And when I grew up in the UK, that was a usual sight on the streets for me. And it never made me feel comfortable. So I didn't really like being around that again. So going to brunches has never been a really big thing for me. But I know so many people here really do enjoy them. And they are pretty amazing, I have to say. But for our next guest, she enjoyed them maybe a little bit too much that it started affecting her life. So much so that she's now created the Sober Yoga Girl podcast. She walked into the studio and she had such a big smile on her face. And like she's still smiling now. I want to welcome Alex McRobert. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Thank you so much for having me.
So let's go back a little bit. When did you move to Dubai?
So I moved here in 2017. And I remember when I first got here, I was like blown away by the brunches, the ladies' nights. I thought it was so much fun. And at that point, I was 25. So it was like...
At that age, I get it. Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about brunches. How often did you go to one? Like, I know it would probably have been part of your social life and the team that you're around.
Totally. Like every weekend, I would say. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
For how long? How many years or months?
So the funny thing is when I got here, I was like, oh, this is amazing. I'm so happy. And then I think I only made it about a year and a half before I was like, I just can't do this anymore.
Okay, so let's break it down. What was actually happening? Because this really started affecting your health, both physically and mentally.
Yeah. So I think I had this persona on, Instagram and social media of having this amazing expat life, all these adventures and travel. But in reality, I was really depressed. I was really anxious. I had 2 credit cards that were completely in debt. And it almost felt like this breaking point. And I realized, I have a great job. I live in an amazing country. I have a beautiful apartment. Like, what could be wrong? And I knew deep down inside of me that it was the partying and the brunches.
Okay, so we had a chat about this off air, and I said there's got to be something deeper here because I feel, when people over-exercise, emotionally eat, or use work as an excuse, or drinking, whatever it is, there's something more there to the root of it, right? And when we started chatting about it, you did go back a few years. So tell me what it is that you found out.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually had bipolar disorder. And for me, it was something that the use of the alcohol, in my mind, I thought it was relieving stress. I thought it was making me happier. I thought it was connecting me to people. But in reality, it was preventing me from being in a stable place with my moods. And the amazing thing is that when I quit drinking, I initially struggled deeply. Like my mental health got worse for like the first maybe 5-10 days. And ever since then, like most of the symptoms have gone away since I've been sober.
So you're telling me when you stopped drinking, a lot of the bipolar symptoms went away?
So, I mean, I would love to say that it was just sobriety that did that, but there was a lot more to it, right? So I was also practicing yoga and meditating and speaking to a therapist, and I do take medication for it. So there's like a whole picture of different strategies that I'm implementing for my mental health. But I would say sobriety was like the final piece. Quitting alcohol was the final piece to kind of bring myself to that state of equanimity.
You also mentioned as well that you were a teacher and you felt like you weren't doing what you were meant to do. And that also added to a bit of the depression and maybe the overindulgence at brunches and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So I discovered my yoga practice early in my 20s, and I ended up following this career of being a school teacher because I thought it was more, of a safe and stable job for me.
For me too. I mean, I wanted to go into media and singing and stuff, and your parents are saying, but you need to get a more solid, stable job. And you do. You think, well, you have to. That's just a bit of a pipe dream sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And so as soon as I quit drinking, it was about maybe 30 days into sobriety when it was almost like I woke up from like sleepwalking through life a little bit. Like it was like all of a sudden I could see everything clearly. And I was like, what am I doing? Like I know what my dream is. I know that I want to be a yoga teacher. I know that I want to share this with everyone. And so why don't I just start doing it?
Were you ready, though, just to quit that stable job?
I mean, I wanted to. I was ready to leave right away, but at that point, I didn't have enough of an income. I didn't have the business established enough yet, and I didn't really have a plan for how I was going to do it. So I did end up staying in teaching for about 2 years after I quit drinking.
So what was the trigger that made you think, after about a year or so, I can't do this anymore? I can't, live this life anymore like this?
So I think it was a number of things. I think I was sort of Googling how to quit drinking. And I had the idea in my head, but I just didn't know how. And I didn't know where to turn to for resources. And the funny thing was that I ended up getting targeted Instagram and Facebook ads for a community that helped with this specific thing. So it probably picked up my Googling and,
Yeah, it's listening to you.
Yeah, exactly. And then what was magical about this was I was seeing these stories of people who were just like me, a professional, held a job, and drinking was just creating problems for them and they were no longer happy. And so they were sharing how they quit drinking and their lives got so much happier and healthier. And it was hearing these stories of people just like me that made me realize, wow, I could actually do this too. And it might actually make things a lot better for me.
The one thing that happens when you do a massive shift in your life, the people around you shift too. So your brunch friends, are they still part of your life? Did they understand what you were going through? Have they evolved as well?
So my friend group ended up shifting a lot. I think that is it went both ways. The people that I was surrounded with did try to support me as best they could. But also once I was sober, I just didn't want to be around it anymore. I wanted to be up at 6 a.m. on a Friday, Saturday, going to the gym. I didn't want to be out late at night. And so I did occasionally go to I would go to the Christmas party or whatever event, but I ended up withdrawing a lot myself and I ended up really shifting my friend group.
Have you got a new set of friends now?
Yes.
Well, you have a completely new life. We're going to talk about that. So don't go anywhere. We will be back very shortly.
More of Afternoons with Helen Farmer.